Uh, Hi, let us start the lesson from the history, chapter number 1, sources from the class 8 standard. So that in this chapter we are going to discuss about the sources, so that why they are required for the history, and especially the types of the sources for the history and archaeological source, and so many things that we are going to have the discussion. So before we start the lesson, we should understand the meaning of sources. The meaning very simple, it is given here. See, so that here meaning already it is given here, that is what they are saying. Highlight, wait, see, the meaning of the sources already they have given. The things which were used by the man in the past to make his life comfortable, they are called sources. Remember, here they have given here the source. First of all, the focus has been given the things which were used by the man in the past, such as agricultural tools. When the man started to live on this earth at the time, so that agriculture tools were used by the man. When coins were also used, inscriptions, monuments, temples, whatever the things which were used by the man, even ornaments that ladies used to wear and to decorate themselves, so many things were used by the man. And these things which were used by the man in the past, these are called as a sources. This is the simple definition of the sources. Now, especially the mainly the written documents, literary works are the sources. Means at the same time, these are not literary works. So that at the same time, remember here, the things which were used by the man, like agricultural tools, temples, coins, inscriptions, arms, so many things. So that by looking at them, by studying these, then we can understand the history. Sources is nothing but, obviously, if you want to write the history, the first of all the sources are very important. Without source we cannot write the history. Already it is said, so that history is the systematic study of the past. So that obviously if you want to study the past, then things which were used by the man in the past, that has to be studied. So that here one has to understand the coins, tools, agriculture equipments, inscriptions. At the same, apart from these things, then there are many more written documents, means books which were written by the past, means by the people who were living in the past. So that by studying the documents, books which were written by the man in the past, by studying these documents also, we can make it as a source to study the history or to write the history. So that remember, here we are discussing about the chapter that is sources. So that sources are very important. These can be called as like a pillar to the history. Without these sources, then history cannot be studied and history cannot be written, because these are like a pillar to the history. Now let us move on another topic. So that types of the sources, the first of all, the types of the sources can be divided into two parts. One is literary sources and another one is archaeological sources. They have given two types, two kinds. That first of all, in a literary sources, again they can be divided into two parts, and in the case of archaeological sources, they can be divided into four parts. Here two parts in the literary sources. Remember, here literary sources means that can be written or oral sources. These are two types of the literary sources. In the case of archaeological sources, inscriptions, coins, monuments and other ruins, means the things which were already perished, obviously there remains present, there remains, we can get to see in present situation. So these will come under the category of the archaeological sources. Now let us understand one by one systematically written sources. See, in the literary sources, they can be divided into two parts, and again literary sources, again it can be divided into two parts. See, so the first of all, written sources. So written sources, again the written sources can be divided into two more parts. Written sources is nothing but the books which were written by the person living in the past. So that written sources, that can be said native literature, foreign literature. So totally the written sources can be divided into two parts: the native literature or native books. That is example, one example I have given here. Obviously in course of time we will be discussing about the literary sources thoroughly, but now let us understand it very simple. So that in this literary sources, so that Kautilya's Arthashastra, means this Kautilya is a name of the person. he's our native, means he's of Indian. So that he has written a book in the past. The name of that book which was written by the Kautilya, that is Arthashastra. So this is the Arthashastra which has been written by the Kautilya. Because of that reason, and Kautilya belongs to India, as a result of that one we should call him as a his book as a native literature. And if you come to the foreign literature, so that there are many books which were written by the foreigners who came to India. They observed the situation, they analyzed, they studied the Indian situation, and whatever experience that they got, that has been written by the foreigner in their respective book, and that can be called as a foreign literature. So that best example I have given here, the Megasthenes Indica. So Indica is nothing but it is the name of the book which was written by Megasthenes, and this Megasthenes, he is not Indian, he is a foreigner. And one more thing we should understand, and the father of Indian history, if there is any question who is the father of Indian history, and do not say that it is a Kautilya. Obviously it is surprised to know that here the father of Indian history, that is Megasthenes. So Megasthenes, he is a father of Indian history. Why? Because he is the first person, obviously it's foreigner, he is the first person to write the history of India in a systematic and scientific way. So because of that reason, this person is declared as a father of Indian history. Now let us move on to another topic. So that first of all, now let us understand native literature. Native literature already so far we discussed. Now in thoroughly let us understand. So that native literature, here it is given. So that native literature or book, we can say, you can write here book also, the book which were written by the Indians in native languages. Please make highlight here, so that what they are saying, the book which were written by the Indians in native languages. Example, the languages like Kannada, English, Hindi, Marathi, Telugu, Tamil. So whatever the language which are spoken in India, those languages are called as native languages. And the books which were written by the Indians, remember here 2 points that has to be highlighted here, that book has to be written by the Indian, and that book has to be written in a native language. So that if these are ensured, then this literature or this book are called as a native literature, remember here. So please make highlight 2 points has to be written here, or should be focused more on. First of all, these books has to be written by the Indians, number one. This is the first condition in order to make them, in order to call them as a native literature. Next one, these literature or books has to be written in our native languages. Example they have given, I have given here, so many examples are there. So that especially already, as we know that Kautilya's Arthashastra, it is the name of the book which was written by Kautilya, he belongs to India. So that here Arthashastra, obviously in English we can say it is as economics. And King Hala, means Hala, it is the name of the king who wrote a book, that is Gata Saptasati. This is the book. Remember here, these are the books which have recorded about the past we had, means whatever the situation that we had in India in the past. So that in the past, so that those things have been recorded in the books. Next one, Vishakadatta's Mudra Rakshasa, and these are native literature. Example for the native literature that we are discussing, and Kalana's Rajatarangani. So that here Banabhatta's Harshacharita. So that there are plenty of the books we can get to see in India which were written by Indians, remember here. And Kautilya say it is written in a Sanskrit language, so that it is written. And Gata Saptasati, obviously this is also written by Indian king. He is a king of India and he wrote a book. That book is called as a Gata Saptasati. So that if I want to study the history of India, then without studying these books, without studying the books which were written by the Indians or native literature, so that your history will be incomplete. So that we cannot make it completed unless until the literature on Indian history written by Indians are studied or gone through very well. So that here, in order to make your history complete, authentic, then one has to be dependent on the sources. Sources, obviously the books which were written by Indians on India. So this is that everybody should remember the Kautilya's Arthashastra, King Hala's Gata Saptasati, Vishakadatta's Mudra Rakshasa. These books are very, very important from the exam point of view, especially from the competitive exam. So I have seen so many times the questions from this only one paragraph, so that we can expect any number of the question from single paragraph. Now let's move on. So that next, foreign literature. The foreign literature, obviously this is nothing but the books or literature which were written by the foreigner. The foreigner, it is written here, the many foreigners, they visited India, who visited India as a traveler, ambassadors, business, for the business purpose they came, as official, even missionaries also, as a missionaries they came to India. And when they came, they recorded their observation and experience that they had in India, and these observations are written in their respective works in the sense that is a book, work, whatever the work it is written, no, so that it can be called as a book. Okay, work is book. So that example here I have given, Megasthenes Indica. Megasthenes, it is the name of the person, foreigner who came to India, and whatever the experience, observation that he had on India, that has been written by him in his book that is called Indica. So that, remember already as I said that Megasthenes, he is called as a father of Indian history. Father of Indian history. Obviously history of the father of history is different. I am not talking about the father of history, I am talking only the father of Indian history. So that Megasthenes, that everybody should remember. Obviously in the various competitive exam I have seen this question coming directly in the exam. Next one, he is also foreign. Second one, Fines Go Koki, it is the name of the book, and Fine, it is the name of the person, and Go Koki, it is the name of the book written by the foreigner. Remember here we are discussing about the foreign literature and the books which were written by the foreigner who came to India, and they have recorded their observation over India. So that there are so many number of the books we can get to see, only 1, 2, 3, 4 for examples for the foreign literature is enough, more than enough. Now let us move to another topic. See, again we can say the oral history. Another type of the history, oral. I will make it clear very see, we are discussing about the literary sources, archaeological sources. It is not in the written form, like inscription, coins, whatever the materials which were used by the man, these are comes under the category of archaeological sources. But in the case of literary sources, I mean books which were written. So that so far we are discussing about the written sources. In the written sources we can divide it into two parts, that is, one is native, another one is foreign literature. Now this is completely over. Foreign, native literature already you know. Next, foreign literature means foreign books which were written on India. Now let us start to discuss about oral sources, means these are not in the written form. In the case of written sources, the books are available in the written form, but in the case of oral sources, then books are not written in the form. So that orally stories are transferred, or they have been passed from one person to another person, or from one generation to another generation. Now let us understand. So that oral sources, this is the part of literary sources. See that oral source. Oral sources means the folk story, folk songs, legends, ballads, and other that has passed on from one person to another person by the word. Remember here, it is not seen in the written form. This has been whatever the stories, songs, ballads, means like a story only, ballads, story, and these have been given to another person from different. Okay, remember here that has been passed. It is written here, which is passed on from one person to another person by orally or by words. So that here folk people, they have created the ballads about their local heroes. So that folk means like group of the people, they have created stories like adventurous stories, they are called as a ballads, and these are ballads on Kumara Rama and Nayaka of Chitradurga. You can get to see the Chitradurga history, very wonderful. And Kempe Gowda. So that many people, they obviously there are books available on the Kempe Gowda and Chitradurga, Nayakas of Chitradurga, Kumara Rama. At the same time, so that there are many stories about the Kempe Gowda and all. These are not in the written form. These are like in the songs, like stories and all. And even in the case of the Tipu Sultan also, So that many number of the songs are available on the Tipu Sultan. Stories we can get to see about the Tipu Sultan, and these can't be seen, or we cannot get it in the written form. Even Sangoli Rayana, plenty of the songs, stories are available about Kempegoda, who fought for Karnataka, especially against the foreigner, that is Britishers and all. And even the movies is also available about the Kempegoda, even Sangoli Rayana. So that these are the heroes of Karnataka, and many songs we can get to see, stories we can get to see, and these are called oral sources. Means the history of the Kempegoda, Sangoli Rayana, Nayaka of Chitraduga, these stories are said orally from one person to another person, and in this manner it will be passed on. Okay, so this is called oral sources. Next, come to the another topic. Second type of the sources, archaeological source. Now let me make it clear. Sources can be divided into two parts. Already it is in very first beginning only I made it clear. The history can be divided into two parts: literary sources, next one is archaeological sources. Now so far we had discussed about the literary sources, in that written and oral. Now we are going to discuss about the archaeological sources. Means here there is no any such kind of written form. Archaeological sources, so that example they have given. So that in obviously in archaeological sources, again they can be divided into four parts, like inscriptions, coins, monuments, and other ruins. So these are, again, archaeological sources can be divided into four parts: 1, 2, 3, and 4. Inscriptions is nothing but something written on the wall, stone, rock, pillar, metal, so on. Remember here, these are inscriptions. So that coins means the coins which were in use in the past. By studying the coins, by studying the inscriptions also, you can understand the history very well. Suppose now there is inscription like Ashoka pillar. By studying the pillar which was created by Ashoka, you can understand many things about our Ashoka king. Remember here. So that when it was constructed, obviously something is written on that wall. So that by studying that language, so that we can understand, means there was written form, means the people were educated, because of that reason something is written on the wall. And so that the year in which that was written, so that suppose 3rd century, let us say it was written in 3rd century or 4th century, we can say, so that Ashoka lived in this century. So that so many things we can understand by studying the inscription. Even coins also, there are plenty of the coins we can get to see, so which were used by the, or which were minted in the past. So that see now let us and monuments and other ruins. Now let us move on further. So this is like Ashoka's pillar it is. So this is the pillar, so which was created by King Ashoka. So that here at that time it was created, means many number of the centuries ago it was created. Today also you can get to see this one in India. And remember here, these are the other material. So the buildings and all, these are ruined, means perished one. By studying this one archaeological sources, so that excavation will be carried on, and the systematic study will be carried on about these monuments and all. So that many things you can reveal, and these can be made like a source for your history. If you want to study the history, then study about these are very very important. So these one has to study very well. Unless until you study these things, so that one cannot understand the history very clearly. So that see, so this is inscriptions we can understand. So that since beginning to till now, or till the Britishers, many number of the monuments we can get to see, and other things we can say. So this is like inscription, so that something is written. And this is, remember here, Ashoka's pillar, no? So that on the pillar something is written, so that this is written, this has been created or written by King Ashoka. And Prakrit language, so this is the language of Prakrit. We cannot understand because we don't know in how it can be read. So because of that reason we can't read it. But there are many study um, there are many experts who can study this one. So these are called as a inscriptions. Next one, so that these are coins. See here the coins, how the coins were minted in India earlier, so that something is written in Urdu language or their own respective language, I think. And there are even the figures we can get to see on the coins. So by studying the coins, so many things we can understand. For example, so that on the coins, so that one or two lords photos can be minted. By studying that one, this coin, one can understand the people were believed in the god, means they used to worship the god. Even some figures will be written like uh, 1622 something, in which year it was minted, so that we can understand. So that a king was ruling India, and that same person, he was having the coin system, means economy was existed at that time. So that we understand other things. See, the temples, fort, pillar, etc., they are called as a monuments. The monuments, the definition or one simple meaning is given. The temples, fort, even pillars, and this is stupa, we can say. So that Buddha, Mahavira, when they were living, they used to reside in this place. Monks, they used to reside in this place. So we can understand by studying these monuments, so that we can understand, or we can take it as a source of history. And here the best example for studying your history. So this is Taj Mahal. Already we know where it is located, by whom it was created, and what is the story behind construction of this one, so that we know everything about this monument. We can understand earlier there was engineering system developed very systematically, and from which age or from which year to which year, or how many years has been taken to construct this monument. We understand, and who was ruler of India at that time, how it was constructed, so that stone from where these were brought to India, and who made the plan, how it was constructed, so that these can be made as a source to study the history of India. If you want to study the history of India, then studying the monuments is very very important. Now let us move on. I think this is end of the lesson. So I hope that you all know everything about the topic.